This is from Gamatsu by Sal Romano. Bloomberg reporting NetEase Games plans to close Visions of Mana developer Ouka Studios. Ouka? Ouka?
Okay. I
Okay.
think, yeah.
All right.
I believe so.
NetEase Games has cut, quote, all but a handful of jobs at Tokyo-based subsidiary Oka Studios, which just shipped Visions of Mana under contract for Square Enix, and plans to close the studio. According to a Bloomberg report citing people familiar with the matter, the few staff that remain at the studio will reportedly oversee the rollout of its final games. Back in 2022, 2 years after its establishment in 2020, Oka Studios outlined 3 projects that were currently in development: an action RPG featuring an adventure with unique allies, a new style battle game based on a popular series, and an original cooperative action game featuring gigantic enemies. In an email, a NetEase Games representative told Bloomberg it has, quote, nothing to announce regarding a potential closure of Oka Studios, and that it is seeing progress at the many Japanese studios it is invested in. Quote, in supporting studios outside China, we craft our strategy based on our goal of providing better gaming experiences to local and global players. The NetEase Games spokesperson said the company is, quote, thus always making necessary adjustments to reflect market conditions. NetEase Games also owns the Toshihiro Nagoshi-led Nagoshi studio, the Goichi, Suda51 Suda-led Grasshopper manufacturer, and Hiroyuki Kobayashi-led GP Track 50. According to Bloomberg, NetEase Games rival Tencent is also reconsidering the pace and scale of its investment in Japan, having already backed off from at least several funding commitments for new titles. In a statement, Tencent told Bloomberg that it remains committed to its partner studios and developing its business in Japan. Literally, the day Visions of Mana dropped, everybody gets fired.
And it does say that they were getting phased out since spring, but it's incredibly pathetic to have a game on the horizon and start doing that before you see how well it does.
It's weird to see. So it's clear that, like, all right, writing was on the wall here for quite a while, but then, like, so who's getting these profits that are coming off this game? I mean, I don't imagine it's going to be Visions of Mana, not necessarily the biggest game of the year by any means, and by critic response, not the best game of the year either. But like, man, we're not even going to see how this is going before we're shutting it down. Now, granted, it was probably internal talk at the studio of like, hey, this is it for us. Go, pack up your stuff. Like, we're gonna ship it, and then we're gonna have to figure something else out, which is sad. But it just sucks that we just live in a time where, like, these studios don't get opportunity to grow. They don't get opportunity to learn. They just they come out, they're established, they maybe get to put out a game, and then they pack it up. You don't have an opportunity like in Insomniac to learn from Spyro 1, 2, 3. Into the Ratchet and Clanks and so on and so forth. Like, it just doesn't happen anymore. Same with Naughty Dog. Same with any studio of that time, And a lot of the Square Enix held studios, I know this isn't a Square Enix owned studio, but in partnership with Square Enix, right? Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of these studios got to, take risks and make mistakes. And you just don't see that anymore. And it's really unfortunate, because that's how we get games and franchises that we care about is, oh, hey, first one was okay, this one was all right, but the next one is where they really hit the stride. That doesn't happen anymore. You're either a hit on the first time, or you're out of here. And that's, man, I feel so bad for these people who have to live under this iron,
It's incredibly demoralizing. One thing we keep going back to is Tango Gameworks. They put out a commercially successful game, a well-received game. Everyone was
Granted, Tango had been around for a minute.
They had been, but the point is that the product that you're releasing does not matter. It's been, I think, very clear that that's the case. Even if, layoffs would have happened if the game didn't sell all that well, Visions of Mana, or if there were layoffs, closures, whatnot, the fact that we're seeing it happen before the game's even out shows that how good it is probably doesn't really all that much matter.
Yeah.
It's just a reaction to cut costs from these head companies. And I find it incredibly hard for game designers to look forward to the future happily. Some people have said it seems certainly that we're heading towards a crash, and that this current economy of gaming is unsustainable, and these are one of those these factors that just kind of add on to those dark thoughts about what exactly is going to happen to the gaming industry.
And I mean, it's not even new guys. Like, we're talking about Oka Studios, established in 2020. Obviously, the game that they were talking about is Visions of Mana, but they had a co-op game in production too. We're not getting that now. Like, it's just dead in the water, and that's unfortunate. But like, even titans of the industry, who at one point were at the top of their game, get pushed into creative decisions that are not necessarily so much focused on the art or so much focused on the product of the game and more focused on generating revenue. And that you can see that as a consumer from a mile away is when it's like, oh, this is just to make money and this is not going to be that great. And the perfect example of that is Rocksteady with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which also got hit with layoffs. This just happened today, right before we went live. Pulling from Eurogamer.net, Tom Phillips, Rocksteady hit by layoffs after Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League underperforms. Rocksteady staff have told Eurogamer on redundancies at the studio following the underperformance of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. The company's QA department has seen its size almost cut in half over the past month. Eurogamer understands from 33 team members to 15, with poor sales of Suicide Squad directly cited as a reason for its restructuring. The job losses extend outside of QA too. One staff member posting publicly on social media over the weekend revealed they had been told they were being made redundant in the middle of their paternity leave. Eurogamer has contacted Suicide Squad publisher Warner Brothers for comment, but has so far not received a response. Rocksteady staff who requested to remain anonymous told Eurogamer that the loss of so many roles in the developer's QA department, including team members with specialized knowledge, would leave their remaining colleagues shouldered with more work. There has also been an acknowledgement by Rocksteady's senior management that product quality will now suffer as a result, staff say. Staff members affected by the job cuts include numerous junior staff, but also several team members employed at Rocksteady for more than 5 years. Last month, Warner Brothers reported a 41% fall in gaming revenue year on year due to the weak performance of Suicide Squad. After previously saying that it had lost $200 million on the game, work continues on Suicide Squad's year of post-launch content, though nothing has been said for what, if anything, will come next. Quote, Rocksteady's talent is so evident in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, it almost overcomes the terrible decision to try and make it reads Eurogamer's Suicide Squad review. Excuse for the little editorialization there, but, it is what it is. And, I think that speaks true. Rocksteady, incredibly talented studio. The Batman Arkham games are monumental landmarks in gaming that just really, paved the way for what a narrative action type game should kind of look like, at least in the comic book genre, when you bring comic book heroes to games and so forth. And Suicide Squad, hard miss. And this is what happens a lot of the time when you make a studio make a game that they are not experts in making. That's not why they applied. That's not what they specialized. That's not what they made before or after. And so, Warner Brothers kind of pushing Rocksteady into this live service, game as a service model didn't work. It flopped really hard. The game is not great from all tales. Neither of us played it, and it turns out, nobody fucking played it. I was seeing numbers that Suicide Squad was doing worse than Avengers today, like this year. I'm not talking when Avengers launched. I'm talking earlier this year when Suicide Squad launched. It had lower numbers than Avengers did earlier this year.
And we have other case examples like with the closure of Oka Games, comparing it to Tango Gameworks, of big studios that have storied experience in the gaming industry. Crystal Dynamics with the Avengers.
Another one.
Arcane Studios with Redfall. Now Rocksteady with Suicide Squad.
Rest in peace, Arcane.
Yeah. And what's the underlying thing here? They're all live service games, which is already in Concord, is already a hard market to get into. And even if you have the sauce, which Concord didn't, in terms of how it looks, you're still not exactly bringing people in. And these are all case examples of that, and yet we saw it happen multiple times. It belies common sense. And I'm assuming that a little bit down the line here, we're going to, since this just broke, we're going to have some executive or some, PR statement from this company saying something You know, it doesn't really matter what it is because it's all empty words anyway. The fact that they cause a game to fail and then go on to blame the people who, basically had no choice in the matter, and canceling their fucking employment during paternity leave.
It's fucked up.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
I mean, that really can tell you all that you need to know about who exactly is making these decisions. A bunch of repugnant maggots who just don't care about people's lives, who don't care about video games as an art form. They're just the lowest of the low that wear a suit. And so people think they're not. But they're, trust me, lower than most people will ever be, ever hope to be. And, how much money do they make? How much are they screwing over their workers on an individual basis? Because it's, generally when someone gets unemployed or laid off or something like this, it sucks. There's the curve of you having to get a new job, but I think those kind of ignore those small cases where someone's life is completely upended by one of these studios closing, and it happens. You can't fire these large swaths of people. You can't cancel these entire studios and not have somebody end up screwed over massively as a result, and they just don't care.
I mean, that's the long and short of it, is that greed has run amok. You bring up, Concord, in that even studios that are built to make these games, and they turn out, in our opinion, a quality game, but clearly, not one that's capturing the hearts of the people. Concord is estimated to have only sold 25,000 units. So now you look to Firewalk, and you go, what happens there? Sony had long-term plans for this. Are they going to commit? Are they going to double down? We've seen different industry figureheads come out and say, "Hey, man, you're not committing. You guys are expecting massive profits right out of the gate, and it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes you have to, give your team time to find it and time to build a community out. And I personally think that's what PlayStation should do with Concord right now. But then there are clear options of Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. Yeah, that one's not one that we should continue down that path. And I'm gonna guess the reason they attacked QA in terms of layoffs is so that they can keep as much of that core development team as possible. Of course, this is gonna burden everybody with more work because there's just less hands to go around. But I think the hope is that they can turn this around. And so maybe we can give Rocksteady another chance, another game, and hopefully we don't have to see them face the same closures that we are seeing industry-wide. And, I assume you pull that all the way back, you put them on another single-player action-adventure game of some kind, whether that's another comic book game, another Batman game, something. I kind of feel like returning to the Arkham universe would be a mistake because that is so deeply rooted in Kevin Conroy's performance as Batman. So, returning to that would probably be a mistake, but I'm not saying they should avoid Batman as an entirety.
And you think those people care who made the decisions?
No, a Batman game is going to sell, but what would, strategically, if you're from a leadership perspective, what would you do with this studio? Because to me, I would not send them back down the road of Batman, especially because Suicide Squad kind of left a bad taste in some people's mouths with how Batman was handled. And then one of their more recent events or whatever is a thing where they're resurrecting the Justice League or whatever. So the whole point of the game, I think that's a soured branch. That's a poisonous branch to jump on. So I think it'd be smarter if they found a way to develop, I don't know, a Nightwing game or a Superman game or give them something else to work with. Because I think returning to Batman again, it's going to be, it's going to be hard to separate that from Arkham. It's already a tumultuous ground. Kevin Conroy's gone. Rest in peace. So, I don't know. I'm hypothesizing on what the angle is for Rocksteady as a studio, but Warner Brothers as a publisher. And as an owner of that studio, what is the angle they should go down? I don't know, but it's definitely not more Suicide Squad.
And it's not going to be, you're right.